This morning becomes Eclectic at 89.9 KCRW. Flaming Lips put out a new album about a month or so ago on Warner Brothers. It's called Soft Bulletin. The band were in town this weekend for a gig and join us this morning in the studio. Good morning, guys. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hello, Mr. Nic.
How are you this morning?
You seem very subdued now that you're on the air. And see, I'm hyped up. I've been drinking coffee. We've been up since like 6 a.m.
I cannot tell you how impressed I am the fact that you guys did a job last night. You did a gig last night, and then you were here at, I don't know, what, 4:30 this morning?
Impressed is the wrong word. I think everybody was surprised, actually. That's what you meant, yeah. But see, I can see how apprehensive everybody has gotten, because as we've gotten closer to airtime, people have gathered to make sure it all is going to actually work. When we started, there was simply just the one engineer, and now there's like 20 people all...
They're like, okay, so let's see if these guys can pull it off. And
well, they must have something prepared in case the whole thing just collapses and doesn't actually work. Right?
I'm talking to Wayne Coyne, who is a singer in the band. Michael Ivans joins us, as well as Stephen Droz. That is the current lineup of Flaming Lips. Tell us a little bit about making this new album. A little bit different from the one before, right?
Well, we had started off making sort of two records at the same time. We were doing our Zaireeka record, which is a strange record in a way that it's 4 CDs.
And the whole idea is you have to play them simultaneously, right?
Yeah. Now, see, that to us, that doesn't seem that bizarre. I mean, this seems like a good idea to us, but to a lot of people, that's just that's too much.
Well, I think it's very cool. It just depends on how many CD players you have in your house.
Well, see, Nic, we've discovered that it reveals something else. It reveals how many friends people have. When people come up to us, they said, I've never been able to play that record. We realize, well, you don't have any friends that will come over to your house. So I think it does a little bit of both, but I do realize that it's a strange record, and it's a little bit of a challenging record. But yeah, 4 CDs meant to be played at the same time, which we actually had no idea how to do that when we started, and it took us about 8 months before we could get that wrapped up. But in the meantime, we had sort of expanded our tolerance and our vocabulary of what we could do in the studio, and so by the time we came to do the Soft Bulletin, which is just a single disc. Imagine that. How simple.
That must have been easy after coordinating the sounds for 4 separate CDs.
Exactly. I mean, I must admit, it seemed utterly easy, but we still wanted to do, this sort of over-exaggerated sort of production that we had sort of gotten used to doing, which was, used to be held on 4 CDs. Now it's all compacted down to 1. So it was actually, we would sit there and sometimes be amazed at how easy it was just to play music and arrange it. Now that doesn't mean that it's any good or it's easy for us to do it. It just seems simple compared to what we'd been doing.
Now, you had that hit a couple of years ago.
She Don't Use Jelly, yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And I would imagine a lot of people were really surprised when you came out with Zaireeka after that.
Well, I think the people who have followed us for a long time are never surprised when we do something as bizarre as that. But I think there is that sometimes temporary but more popular audience that really just knows us from stuff like 90210 or and She Don't Use Jelly, Beavis and Butthead sort of stuff. And really, both those worlds are kind of fun. I don't think I'd want to trade one exclusively for the other.
Nice to be able to move in between.
Well, it's like when you're talking to someone at the bank and they say, "What do you do?" And you say, "Oh, I'm in the Flaming Lips." And they're like, "Oh, okay," And then I say, "Well, we were on David Letterman." And then they say, "Oh, really? That's great," or whatever. So it's good to have some sort of notoriety that people can relate to.
So going from Zaireeka then back to this album, let's come back up to date, the Soft Bulletin. Where did you actually make this record? You worked with Dave Fridman again, who you've worked with over the years.
We've worked with Dave Fridman now, it seems like, for almost 11 years. And we've always sort of worked in this way where he knows that we're going to come up to his studio and ask the impossible, and he's going to say he can't do it. And we'll say, sure you can. And eventually he does it. And so I think he likes that. I think he sort of gets to the point where he has all the brand new gear and he knows how to run it all, and he wants to accommodate ideas with it all. So when a band like us shows up and says, "Dave, we want to do all this stuff," it's really just the best thing for him. He loves doing all that sort of sound sculpting that you can do with all this new and fancy gear that you can get these days.
Well, there's some wonderful, sculpting is a great word. There's some wonderful orchestrations. It's a very lush record in many places. Well,
I think in some ways we surprised ourselves when we started to do some of these arrangements. We really had no idea of how to do them. You can listen to to music like that, and really it doesn't reveal any method of how you do it. You just go, oh, it must be 100 instruments and they all play in some great unison, and these waves of sound come over you, and it must be great. But when you go to do that yourself, you really see what a complex and sort of sophisticated thing that the evolution of music has kind of worked out over the years, that all these different instruments and all these different sounds all occupy a space in there. And I think that's all the sort of stuff that we started to just find out for ourselves on this record. In some ways, I think people think that we understand how string arrangements and all that stuff sort of works. And honestly, we really don't. We just sort of started to do it, and it kind of makes itself as we go. And so some of it actually still surprises us that we hear it and go, oh, wow, that sounds like people who know what they're doing.
It's always scary. We talked a little bit about the fact that the people who know the band know that you could go off in a different direction at any given time, that the band has a very diverse way of recording and performing as well. When you take your show on the road, I mean, there's a big element of theater to what you guys do. Well,
it's not an intentional theater. I mean, I think sometimes we end up looking at what we do and thinking, well, would we like that? Because, I mean, we're not necessarily, esoteric sort of music fans. We kind of we like to be entertained. And so when we do our stuff in front of people, we don't necessarily think of these people as musicologists or something like that. We think of them as just people who want to go out. They could have went to see a movie or go to a baseball game, or they come to see our show. It's just something that they want to do.
They just happen to be at your gig at that moment.
Well, I think they just want to have something to do that night for a couple hours, and it doesn't have to be a life-changing experience, just something that they have fun doing. And so we want to entertain them. I mean, it's really kind of that really is the position that rock and roll has always had. I think sometimes people want to elevate it to more of a religious experience or something like that. But really, I don't. I really, sometimes when people come to our shows and say, my life was changed by your show, I say, oh no. Didn't you have very much of a life before you got here, that a couple hours of us playing music could change it so drastically? And so I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I mean, I hope people are stable and secure individuals before they come to the show, and they can like the music and go home and stay the same, actually,
Well, at the end of the day, as you say, it's entertainment.
Well, of course it is, yeah. And to think that it's anything else is well, maybe people are just taking too many drugs.
Or overthinking it a little bit, one or the other. You're going to do something a little different for us this morning live on the radio as well. Tell us a little bit about the first set of songs you're going to
did you see how we separated it in two separate sets there?
I noticed that.
We have the first part, which is, what did I call it there? Insect-oriented songs.
Each set has a name.
Exactly. Well, see, people think that I'm obsessed with bugs, and I'm not. It's just I sometimes think that just by coincidence, I have some songs that will talk about insects and bugs and stuff like that. But I think what truly happens is most people don't talk about them at all. So if one guy does, then it seems like, oh, he's obsessed with them. But it's not. I like everything. I just don't exclude insects in our songs. So we have this trilogy that we call it of insect-related songs.
And we should point out that for those who are perhaps a little squeamish of the insect-related songs, there will be another set called Brains and Happiness and Death-oriented songs. So
well, we thought we'd save the more serious side to till later on. But yeah, and that second set it consists of the Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd sort of side of things. So yeah.
Well,
I think we got a lot to do here today.
We do. I better let you get to it.
But see, I actually really wanted to interview you.
I know, but you see the way I just kept you talking, so you couldn't do that.
Well, it seems like you actually have had the more interesting life in the past couple of days, not myself.
We'll do that next time. It's Flaming Lips, and they're live on Morning Becomes Eclectic.
All right, so we're starting off with
Buggin.
With Buggin, okay. And like I said, this is a trilogy of sort of insect-related songs. The first one is Buggin, the second one is about a waterbug, and the third one is a spider. Yeah. So it works out well. All right, it goes like this.
You ready?
Mm-hmm. Now, for you people who are driving in your cars or sitting at home, you'll hear a little buzzing in the background, and that's Michael, and he usually leads the chorus of faked insect sounds. So if you get the urge to, while you're driving your car or sitting at home, to buzz along, please do. All those bugs buzzing summertime will make you itch, the mosquito bites. And scratching as well will be like this. Can you hear that? The buzz of love is busy bugging you. Well, they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and they're splattered up and down your windshield and the headlights. Well, they bite. Yeah, they bite. But you can't see them there. But they bite. Yeah, they bite. But you can tell they're there. Does love buzz? Because that's what it does. Well, they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and the summertime will make you itch, the mosquito bites, and they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and they're splattered up and down your windshield and the headlights, and they fly in the air. You comb your hair, fly in the air. You comb your hair. That's the slapping of the mosquito.
Mosquito in your
as it's
arm,
on
yeah.
your face when you're trying to sleep. So there you go. So that's the first bug-oriented one, and that really sort of encompasses a lot of bugs. Now this next one is more specific, and it's about a particular type of bug, and it's a water bug. And the story behind this, and this relates to your story, Nic. That's why I thought it was so interesting. I have a brother who got thrown accidentally into the hospital instead of jail, and he likes to take drugs. Now, I'm not saying that your brother or you or any of that is related, but we were talking of things earlier. And this song kind of has a story that goes along those lines. So if you start, I'll talk underneath it so they can feel as though something will happen musically. So it's been about 3 or 4 years, but we were asked to do a song for a compilation on a CMJ or something like that. And of course, we always say yes to those things. We never get around to doing them until the last minute. So I had arrived at the day when we were supposed to record this track, and I needed to finish it that day and send it off Federal Express and get there on time. So I go back to my little area in my house where I have my 4-track and everything set up, and I start putting together this song that I had some ideas for. And I don't get very far with it before I get a call from my brother's wife, and she is a little bit frantic, and she can't find. Someone has called her from the hospital and said that my brother is down at the hospital. She doesn't know what's wrong. She suspects that maybe he's taken some drugs or he's had a heart attack or something. But he has the car, and so she asks me to go down there and see what's wrong. And so I go down there and discover that he's passed out, and he was at the grocery store, and he had done a bunch of what's the drug? Xanax. Yeah, sort of a downer.
Xanax.
Yeah. Xanax. Is that what it seems like?
That's what he would do.
Yeah, that's what he liked those for a while. And he had gone to the grocery store and bought a bunch of stuff, and as he was taking it to his car, ended up passing out in his car. But I think he actually got in someone else's car by mistake, and the cops sort of came, didn't know what to do with him, and took him down to the hospital. And this is kind of the story that I'm sort of exaggerating a little bit, but making it into a little bit more drama. Now, the part that isn't true, and I'll admit this, is the part where he is able to, he has these superpowers in the song, and he's able to call up these waterbugs to kill or attack any of these sort of authoritative figures who are trying to oppress him in the song. And it sort of relates to like, remember the Willard guy who had the rats? And whenever anybody tried to hassle him, he'd call up the rats, and the rats would all come and chew these guys up. Well, my brother in this song, in his drug-addled state, is able to call up those water bugs, and they do the same things to all the people in the song. All right, so it goes something like this. My brother's at the store, a genius when he's bored. He contemplates his consciousness. He feels his hands, they sweat. He can't connect it yet. And he pulls all his resources. And he calls up the insects he commands, and the water bugs attack the policeman. All right, so that clicking sound you hear, that's Michael once again leading the chorus of insect sounds. Now, the other day we did this song, and it occurred to us that water bugs don't actually make any noise. That's why you never know where they're at. So when you discover them over there by their air conditioner or something, they're just silent. They just sit there. But Michael is kind of making what would really be a microscopic sound, and he's magnified it by 1,000-fold, okay? That's pretty good. Okay. My brother's at the morgue. He gets up off the floor. He contemplates his escape. But a guard waits at the door. He feels his power soar, and he pulls all his resources. And he calls up the insects he commands, and the water bugs attack the policeman. So if I can remember the story correctly, I believe that he finally just woke up at the hospital, and I think he ended up just walking home. And when I asked him about actually what happened later, he really didn't remember at all. And he's actually heard this song since and has no idea that it's really about him. Okay, I'm working up to your...
You usually don't leave me hanging like that.
Oh, I did. I left you hanging. He tries to make it home. He stops to use the phone, and he can't remember where the house is, but a cop waits at his car, so he needs his friends once more, and he pulls all his resources, and he calls up the insects he commands, and the waterbugs attack the policeman. Yeah, the waterbugs attack the policeman. Oh, there you go. Nice ending.
Could have done with a couple of those waterbugs last night. Flaming Lips on Morning Becomes Eclectic at 89.9 KCRW. I'm looking at our time. I'm just going to let you guys spin straight through it.
Oh, okay. So we're moving on to into the third part of the trilogy here.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this song, once again, I mean, like I said, I don't think we're obsessed with bugs, and you can see how we use them. We use them as just a funny, some sort of metaphor for other things in life. But this next song is the very first part of it, and is really true. It was a Thanksgiving of 1996. Stephen, for some reason, was cleaning out his garage. Now, I don't actually believe he was cleaning it out, but he was out there, and he claims he was cleaning. And he was lifting something up, and a spider bit him on his hand. And he has a scar to prove it. He has a scar on his hand to prove it. You can show them. I don't think they believe you.
Well, they can't see it.
Okay, that's radio. You can't see. Okay, but anyway, he has a horrible scar on his hand to show just how serious this was. So he gets this bite on his hand, and it was Thanksgiving, so there really wasn't any place he could go. He went to one of these minor emergency clinics. They looked at it and said, "Gee, I think this is more serious than you think." And they sent him to the emergency room. So he gets there, and it escalates to the point where they think they may have to cut his hand off. Now it was brief. It was a brief couple of moments late in the evening, but at some point it even escalated to the point where if they didn't cut his hand off, he could possibly die. So you could see where this sort of drama can't pass a guy like me up. I mean, I'm always writing songs and trying to use experiences and songs and make them into these sort of unique things. And so he gets bit by the spider. I think, oh, that's a great thing to write a song about. So I don't write songs necessarily fast. Sometimes they take weeks, months, sometimes years. But I'm always thinking of something. So in the meantime, his hand does all that does work out, and then Michael has this accident in his car. He's sitting at a stop sign, and he looks left and right, and as he looks to the right or the left or whatever it was, he sees a car coming down the street, and the wheel has somehow dislodged from the car, and it's flying down the road, sort of independent, and it slams right into the side of his car. And he's sitting there, and it destroys the door to the point where he can't even open it and get out. So I think, well, gee, this is more great real life drama to use for songs. I mean, that's what sometimes I think people wrongly assume, that you have to be a prisoner of war or picked up by a UFO or something like that before you have something to write a song about. And I say just the opposite. I mean, I think everyday life is truly already extraordinary. You don't have to be a movie star or a millionaire. Just being alive and living is fine. And this is proof of that. This song is proof that these things not only could happen to anybody, they do happen to everybody. And this song is called The Spiderbite.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was trying to work out if we're gonna do drums on this or.
I think what if you just did the little Rhodes thing, and Michael did sort of a spider, and then a car accident.
What kind of sound is a spider?
It goes. And it's evil sounding. And then he goes, with the car crash. And then at the end he sobs because it's. All right. When you got that spider bite on your hand, I thought we would have to break your arm would surely upset your brain. The poison then could reach your heart from a vein. I was glad that it didn't destroy you. How sad that would be. 'Cause if it destroyed you, it would destroy me.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. This is where you'll do the car accidents where we're squealing and right. And when you had that accident in your car, that whole thing just really seemed too bizarre. And then maybe ambulance, dodging holes and telephone poles through the dash. 1,000,000 to 1 that you could survive such a crash. And I was glad that it didn't destroy you. How sad that would be. 'Cause if it destroyed you, it would destroy me. And this is the part where it's really the pulling of the heartstrings. And if everybody in the audience wants to sob along just for effect, please do. When you fell in love, it was so sweet, so devoted, completely swept off your feet. Love is the greatest thing a heart can know, but the hole that it leaves in its absence can make you feel so low. But I was glad that it didn't destroy you. How sad that would be. 'Cause if it destroyed you, it would destroy me. All right, there you go.
That was very nice.
Morning becomes eclectic, and 89.9 KCRW is where you're listening. You're listening to the Flaming Lips. We just heard a set of insect-oriented songs and so much more, I think. We got about 8 minutes of music time left, so why don't I let you spin into the brains and happiness and death-oriented songs. I don't know if you'll squeeze them all in or not.
Okay, we'll squeeze it. Actually, the shorter the better, really.
What's the first one?
So we're gonna do a couple of years ago. There was we had a strange coincidence happen. I had made a tape a tape of some songs, and while we were driving up to the studio to do some recording. We live in Oklahoma City, and the studio is in New York, so it was about a 20-hour drive. So we're always making tapes to sort of alleviate having to listen to too much of the national radio, and so. Because it gets a bit patchy, out there on the highway. And so I had made this tape that had some of my favorite songs on it, and I had just coincidentally had put some songs from the Wizard of Oz soundtrack and some stuff from Pink Floyd on it. Now this was a couple of years ago, and we would listen to these songs and not think much of it. And then just by coincidence, a couple months later, this whole fury of Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz going together, how you could play Dark Side of the Moon.
Somebody said that if you played Dark Side of the Moon and watched
Exactly.
The movie.
That you would see all these uncanny resemblances, and
We tried it.
Yeah,
Actually made you realize how good
It's like,
Dark
what
Side of the
happens?
Moon is.
What are you supposed to do when that Dark Side of the Moon CD runs out?
Yeah.
We don't wish you were here.
Yeah, there's a whole half hour of the movie left, and there's no sound. Yeah.
More like an hour, actually.
But it seemed like a crazy notion to think that these two were somehow combined, and though we never believed it, we'd always thought, well, that's fine by me. I think it's nothing better than to play. To listen to The Wizard of Oz or watch The Wizard of Oz or listen to Pink Floyd music. That's what we do all the time anyway. So in honor of that sort of thing, we've kind of concocted our little segue from one song to the next that incorporates a little bit of Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd, and it's not related at all to the insect theme at all. But once again, this section is called Brains, Happiness, and Death.
I'll try not to mess up. I've never really played this song before.
Okay,
so.
we'll do the best we can, and I think we did work this out to a certain extent, but I actually don't know if it works very well. But by the time we get done, we'll all know. Yes.
Well, I was here at rehearsal and it sounded fine. So
Okay.
let's do it.
Right. Okay.
But now there's so much
thank you.
pressure.
Okay. And the way I think that they're connected, is the guy starts out wishing he only had a brain. I mean, in the movie, he's a scarecrow and he doesn't have a brain. But in real life, when people say they wish they had a brain, they wish that they were actually smart and had some insight. So the way I've tied them together is, it always sounds better if I talk over it. Then it feels like I will eventually stop and sing.
Yeah, but I was done with my round. I was waiting for you to start.
Okay.
So we didn't know if this was gonna work. So.
So he wants to get a brain, okay? And then the way I have it worked out is he gets the brain, and that's where we segue into the Pink Floyd, which is just the death and the dark and the insanity. And because that's really what happens when you acquire a brain, is that you don't actually get very happy, you actually get more miserable. But at the end of all this misery is some sort of insight, or maybe something that's kind of enlightening or something. And that's when we'll end with Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So it ends on an optimistic note. So right before lunchtime, we don't want to bum you out, right? I could while away the hours, conversing with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching if I only had a brain. I'd unravel every riddle for any individual in trouble or in pain. With the thoughts you'd be thinking you could be another Lincoln if you only had a brain. Oh, I could tell you why the ocean's near the shore. I could think of things I never thought before, and then I'd sit and think some more. I would not be just a nothing, my head all full of stuffing, my heart all full of pain. I would laugh and be merry, life would be a ding-a-dairy if I only had a brain. See, that's what he thinks. He thinks that if he had a brain, that it would all be happiness and bliss, and understanding would bring him goodness. But in being more of a realist about it, what actually happens is he goes insane. Now that wouldn't fit in very well with the Wizard of Oz thing that they were doing, but in our world it does. It already sounds depressing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I like that.
You shone like the sun. Shine on, you crazy diamond. You reached for the secret too soon. You cried for the moon. Shine on, you crazy diamond. You were caught in the crossfire of childhood and stardom, blown on the steel breeze. Come on, you target for faraway laughter. Come on, you painter, you poet, you prisoner, and shine.
Okay. Now, see, that hints at that anguish and that insanity and all that. And then I suppose what people do is, you know, once they've acquired this brain that seems to do nothing but torture them, they use their brain to sort of work through the torture and hopefully at the end of it find some sort of happiness and enlightenment. So in the last minute and a half before we go, we'll leave them with a little bit of something optimistic. Right? Come on.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops way above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, blue birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly above the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? Thanks, Nick.
This morning becomes eclectic. Thanks, guys. We actually preempted the beginning of the news. We will join it in progress, I should say, in just a moment's time. The band is Flaming Lips. We appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully the news is good.
We can only hope. Thanks to the Flaming Lips. My thanks to Rachel Howard, Jen Polanzi, Rick Gershon, actually Jen Polanzani, let's get that right. Matt Edson to Warner Brothers. Scott Fritz, our sound engineer. Kathy Tamkin for in-studio assistance. Ariana Morgenstern is the producer of Morning Becomes Eclectic. Thank you for listening. We have 5 copies of the Flaming Lips' latest CD. It's the Soft Bulletin for our subscribers. 310-452-6700. They are available on a first-come, first-served basis. You must call now in order to win. 310-452-6700. We join the world in progress.